Welcome back to yet another episode of a Gaijin Reviews. This time, kind of released on time. Wow, incredible, I did it, yay. As always, I'm the Gaijin, and today, I'm going to be taking a look at I Am a Hero, directed by Shinsuke Sato.
このヤバい世界でこの男は本当のヒーローになれるのか。
てめえで助けろ、自分が助けろ。ヒーロー、
俺が君を守る。I am a hero.
I Am a Hero is a 2015 film directed by Shinsuke Sato. It is an adaptation of the manga of the same name, written and drawn by Kengo Hanazawa. I Am a Hero is one of my favorite mangas, and is also one of the few mangas that I've ever actually finished. One of the only other mangas to hold that title is Gantz, which, funnily enough, also has an adaptation directed by Shinsuke Sato, which is fantastic. Visually, it's one of the best manga and or anime adaptations that exist, though that'll be a movie for a different video. And naturally, being such a fan of Kengo Hanazawa's manga, and also of Shinsuke Sato's previous manga adaptation, when I heard that he was adapting I Am a Hero, I was naturally excited. When I saw the trailer, it just cemented my excitement. Now, upon hearing about the film, it would be quite a while until I got my hands on it. One, I had to wait for it to come out in Japan, and then I had to wait for somebody to translate it here. I actually got the movie before any subtitles had been released, and it soon became the first film I ever watched without subtitles from Japan. For those that want to know, I don't speak Japanese. I know little bits and pieces, obviously words that are said a lot in conversation in Japanese films, but overall I can't speak the language. But Shinsuke Sato is a pretty good visual storyteller, so I still found myself really engaged with the film, even though I didn't actually know what anyone was saying. It also helped that I had read the manga prior, so in moments where I wasn't quite sure what was being said, I could kind of get the general tone, which I guess goes towards how good of an adaptation this is, because I knew what was going on even though I couldn't understand what anyone was saying. I would just kind of make up dialogue in my head as I watched the film, and sometimes I was wrong, but I actually got a lot of it pretty right, at least the gist of. The only scene where I really got anything wrong was when they're in the forest, hanging out by a shrine. But that's just due to some changes to some characters that happened in this film that differ from the manga. After a few weeks to a couple months of waiting, I don't really remember which was, a hot minute ago, the subtitles finally got released, and I downloaded them and I watched the film subtitled, and in the span of a short period of time I had ended up watching the film 4 or 5 times. Not because I like it that much, I mean, don't get me wrong, I really do like this film, but just because I watched it without subtitles, then I got the subtitles, so I watched it again, and then I wanted to show it to a friend, and then I showed it to another friend. And my 2 other friends really enjoyed it as well, as I did. So I'm glad to know that I'm not alone in having a positive opinion of this film. And because of this good repeated viewing experience, naturally, I thought if I was ever going to start reviewing movies, Japanese films on the internet, this would be one of the first ones I chose to review. And here we are. Now, I will comment, it is pure coincidence that only one review separates 2 zombie movies. I actually hadn't even thought about the fact that I was reviewing another zombie film while I was watching and writing the I Am a Hero review. I just was sort of like, oh, I like I Am a Hero, I'm going to watch it. And then midway through I was like, I watched a zombie movie for my previous review. Oh no, I hope the audience doesn't think this is going to be a trend. And then I thought, what if I do just review zombie movie, another movie, zombie movie, another movie? How long could I keep that up? I don't even know of that many Japanese zombie movies. Like, There's Stacy and like Big Tit Zombie, but I don't want to watch Big Tit Zombie. Do you want to watch Big Tit Zombie? I didn't think so. I Am a Hero, for the most part, is a fairly faithful adaptation. Not so much in that it follows the exact plot, but more that it gets enough of the gist, which is kind of how I feel a film adaptation can be. Anyone who is expecting an exact translation from page to screen is absurd. You can't expect that, especially with a medium as long as manga. Like a lot of manga, for Gantz, for example, it's like 300 chapters long. You can't turn that into like 3 films. That's kind of hard. So naturally a bunch of shit's going to have to get changed and rearranged and cut out, which I Am a Hero does a lot, but it does it really well. See, I Am a Hero is one of my favorite kinds of adaptations, where they take some key moments from the film, key visual moments, and they recreate them. And they take out several themes and plot details, and they sort of use these to create a singular plot that still follows the story of at least part of the fiction. Another adaptation like this is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it takes elements from all of the novels and some new elements that Douglas Adams threw in and creates a beginning to end good narrative out of them. I really like that movie, by the way, if you've ever wanted to get a look into the kinds of movies I like. So the film, much like the manga, follows Hideo Suzuki, who is a 30-year-old manga assistant, which is not what he wanted to be. Hideo had aspirations to be this big, great, famous mangaka. He was like, I'm gonna get the Naruto bucks just like that guy that makes Naruto. I don't know his fucking name. And the film focuses early on Hideo's sort of day-to-day life struggles, much like the manga, and this is the most faithful the film is to the manga is this period of time where it focuses on Hideo's normal day-to-day life before everything gets fucked. And the whole film is about Hideo having to overcome all of his shortcomings as this zombie apocalypse just fucking springs up all around him. Because, spoiler alert, this movie's about zombies. And it's really exciting. If you had asked me what, like, my favorite recent zombie movie is before Train to Busan came out, I would have said this, probably. But then Train to Busan came out, and I really like that. So as we follow Hideo through his life, one of the things that I have to complain about in reference to the film is how they change Hideo's character. So in the manga, Hideo's like kind of crazy. He hallucinates, and he's very paranoid. In the film, he just sort of fantasizes about things going differently, which is like a change I understand, because the film and the manga have sort of different goals in mind, especially the film, because the film naturally wants to appeal to this big mass market. So a lot of the characters, not just Hideo, have a lot of their darker, rougher sides kind of sanded down so that they can appeal to more of a mass audience, which, like, I understand, and, like, it's kind of a bummer, but, like, I'm mostly okay with it, because at the end of the day, like, the character that's there is still fairly accurate to the manga. He's just missing a few things. And in the plot, in the story that they're telling in this film, those details aren't as important. One of the worst changing of characters comes with Hiromi. Hiromi and Hideo in the manga meet in the woods when Hiromi thinks that he is a suicidal man. Eventually they forge a friendship and a romance over the course of the manga through surviving through so much hardship. And the thing that I like about Hiromi in the manga is that she has this really strong personality. Like, she really stands out from the slew of other manga high school girls. In the movie, she is more of a generic high school girl, mostly because she doesn't get a lot of screen time where she's exuding her personality. There's really only one scene where her and Hideo kind of talk. It is a nice scene in the context of the film, but having read the manga, I was just left wanting more. Although I do like the reference to the manga that Hideo's making in the film when he says that he's going to protect her. It's a nice little callback, which is something this film does a lot. There's a lot of setup and payoff in this film that's fucking great. Obviously the biggest setup is a literal Chekhov's gun. We see Hideo's shotgun, and then at the end he gets to use it. And it's handled just as well here as it is in the manga. Because the whole film, you see Hideo handling the shotgun, but the whole time you have no idea if Hideo even knows how to shoot it. Did I turn on a stove element? Okay, no. I don't want my shirt to light on fire. That'd be fucking horrifying. I'd probably get hella views though, babe. Get that box! So yeah, the whole manga, you're sitting there waiting for Hideo to finally use his shotgun, and he's really resistant. And you're just sat there the whole time being like, oh man, can he even shoot well? And I think it's even more of a thing in the film. Because in the manga, Hideo does say that he takes it target shooting. So he's shot it before, you know this. But in the movie, he never talks about taking it to the range or shooting it at all. In fact, the most he says about it outside of the context of the film is that it is just a hobby. So maybe he just thinks it's cool and he just owns it. Like, I own a couple katanas because I'm a fucking weeb, but I don't know how to fucking Musashi Miyamoto my dick all over the place. And the moment in the film and the manga where Hideo finally shoots his gun for realsies, and we get to find out once and for all if he actually fucking knows how to use that thing, I would say in the manga and the film are equally as fucking cathartic and fulfilling, and just, it makes my dick fucking boom! Which leads me into a good thing, a good chance to segue over to talking about Shinsuke Sato's direction. I really like what Shinsuke Sato does with his visuals. He uses a lot of slow push-ins and pans and tracking shots that are all really engaging and kind of suck you into this immersive state. For example, there's a scene early on in the film where Hideo has to run through the streets of Tokyo away from the zombies, and just the way that he chooses to film it, where the camera's very close on Hideo and just kind of focusing on the things around him, like it's very much a from his perspective kind of film work, it really sucks you into the moment, and it makes you feel the intensity that surely Hideo is feeling too. I'm wearing sweatpants. I wear sweatpants in these videos because you can't see my pants, and I want to be comfortable in my own home, and it's summer, and it's hot, so I have to hike them up over my knees so that I don't die, because I have a pot of boiling water next to me, because I'm a fucking loser, and I want you guys, I'm tricking you into thinking I'm cooking ramen while reviewing this film. These reviews aren't fucking 4 minutes long. You know that there's no ramen in there, it's just fucking water. But, you know, I wanted to do something different than just sit at a fucking table. Another thing that Sato does really well in this film is sort of make zombies a bigger threat than they are, I find, in a lot of zombie movies, and especially in something like The Walking Dead, where, like, the characters are murdering zombies left, right, and center. Of course, at the end, Hideo does, but, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of, like, the movie. But in this, so, like, taking care of even one of these zombies takes a lot of fucking strength, or just fighting ability, or dumb luck, which in the case of Hideo, he kind of has a lot of. Because we see in the movie and in the manga, the zombies are, like, really durable in this film. Like, you can fucking cave in their skull and they might not die. Which makes them really threatening. And there's several scenes where we see a guy get taken out really easily by, like, one zombie. And he does a lot of creative things with the camera that, like, I really enjoy. So there's a character in the film, and it sort of exemplifies a thing I say about zombie films, where a lot of zombie movies have a signature zombie, especially Romero films. In a lot of Romero zombie movies, there's always one zombie that sort of stands out from the rest, and you keep seeing it over and over again. So this film has its own signature zombie, and he's really fucking cool. I introduce you to Sports Boy! I fucking love Sports Boy. He's so fucking gross. Look at his head. It's disgusting. Ugh, I hate him, but I love him. And there's a scene where Sports Boy is running, and he fucking, like, he jumps in the air. And just the interesting way that Sato sort of films his ascension into the air, it's just, it turns what any other director would have just had as, like, two shots of, there he is, oh, he's in the air, you know? Like, he kind of elevates it a bit. And that's what he does with a lot of moments in this film. And he also has a good eye for recreating little moments from the manga, even when it doesn't really make sense. So there's a scene when Hideo's running where he looks out to a field and a man's being chased by some zombies in the field, which is obviously a reference to a moment that happens early on in the manga that is really memorable just because of how unpleasant and fucked up it is to watch in the manga, and it's nice to see it recreated in the film. Though what is weird to see recreated in the film is Michan's bloated corpse. So Hidomi is a manga assistant, like I said, and he works at an office with a bunch of other characters. And one of them in the manga is this chubby girl named Michan that one of the other co-workers wants to pork. And she shows up as a zombie out through a door when Hideo goes back to his office. And she looks like this. But the movie doesn't really explain why. Like, it hints why, but if you were just sitting there watching the film, you'd be like, the fuck happened to her? In the manga, it shows that she died in a bathtub, so her corpse is bloated. So it's a reference to the manga that you would kind of only get if you read the manga. I guess that's nice, but it would be kind of confusing to any other viewer. And well, Sato does homage the manga quite a bit early on in the film. I feel as the film goes further along, it sort of starts not to pay reference to the manga. It kind of comes into its own as its own piece of work, which is super fine. I think that for a large part, certain adaptations should be viewed first as their own movies and then second as an adaptation. Which is what I usually think when I watch an adaptation of anything. I put my expectations from the source material out to bed, and I go, by itself, is this a good film? And if it is, then I go, but is it a good adaptation? So about the moment when Hideo gets to the taxi cab is when the film basically severs from the manga in how close it is. So in the manga, as I said earlier, Hideo meets Hiromi in a forest. In the film, he meets her when he gets to the taxi, which is kind of close to where he met her in the manga, so that's an okay change. But after the taxi scene, which by the way is fucking exciting and looks really good, the use of effects and camera work and staging are really fantastic, and again are just a show of Sato's skills at visuals and action direction. But we get a lot more cut out of the manga. For example, there's an entire chunk of the manga that's just exercise from this film, kind of to the film's detriment. Hideo and Hiromi go to Mount Fuji, where they encounter a bunch of survivors, because like in the film, they heard that there was no infection up in Mount Fuji, which is wrong. The group gets attacked, and Hideo and Hiromi flee with this photographer named Araki, and they go off on their own kind of mini adventure for a bit before coming to the mall. Obviously, that entire part is thrown out of the film, so Araki's not in it, and the explanation for the passage of time in the film is a lot weaker, therefore. In the manga, it's implied to be a couple months that they're on the road after the Mount Fuji moment, before they get to the mall. In the film, it's literally a scene. They are in a forest, there's a scene, he's getting out of the forest, and he has a beard. And the beard is the only show of time change. But I don't know how long it takes for Yo Izumi to get a fucking beard. I assume he can't, because it's a really fake-looking beard. And if he can, why didn't they just make him grow a beard? Come on, Sato. You fuck. That elastic movie's good, you dick. And so, and it's one of my biggest complaints of the film, is when they get to the mall, Hideo has a beard, and the mall's all, barricaded up, and a character refers to something as happening a long time ago, and I'm like, how long? How long was Hideo fucking around in the woods? How hard would it have been to add a scene where Hideo goes up to, Abe, and goes, hey, Abe-san, how long has it been since the infection happened? I was, in a fucking forest for a while, I don't know. And Abe-san goes, oh, it's been 5 months. And then you can have Hideo be like, oh, 5 months, oh, my dick! And it's kind of annoying, because, there's a big chunk of the forest scene where it's just sort of this montage that could have been replaced with other scenes, even from the manga. Obviously, I understand why they didn't put the Mount Fuji thing into this film. The way the film's kind of structured, it feels like after the mall, they would then go to Mount Fuji. So maybe if they ever make a sequel, that's where the film will pick up from, is Mount Fuji, and then we'll get the scenes that happen there. Or not. They might never make a sequel to this movie. I have no idea. But, like, one of my favorite scenes in the manga could have been in the movie. Hideo and Hiromi are walking down the street by the woods, and these two douchebags fucking roll up in this car, and one of them points a fucking Glock at Hideo, and is like, yo, bitch, you wanna go for a ride? And Hideo's like, yeah, that'd be pretty sick. And he's like, nah, you fucking idiot, we're talking about the girl. And Hideo's like, oh, well, I guess you're probably safer with, you know, other people than me. I'm a fucking loser. And she's like, Hideo, I don't really think those dudes are the most savory of characters. And then Hideo's like, you're probably right. And then he's like, you fucking idiots, I know that's not a real gun, you don't scare me. And they're like, whatever, fuck you, man. And then they drive off, and there's this great moment of panels where it's them driving, but there are zombies coming up to their windows, and then them just getting, like, their faces torn apart. And it's one of my favorite moments in the whole manga. Like, yeah, get fucked, you losers. And it could have been in the movie. It wouldn't have even been that hard to film, like, from an effects standpoint. Especially when you see the taxi scene. They could have easily filmed it. And I guess this brings me to my biggest complaint of the film. And it is a spoiler, so if you don't want to be spoiled for this film, skip ahead to this little Bailey boop. And I won't. And if you don't care, keep watching. So in the ending of the part that they're adapting in the manga, which is the mall arc, I guess, it ends with Hideo in the manga having to fight his way out of the mall after all the survivors kind of get fucked with a shotgun and another survivor that happened to not get fucked. And this is the moment in the manga where you're like, can Hideo shoot his gun? And then he reveals, yes, he is quite adept at shooting his gun. And then he runs through the mall food court just fucking blowing zombies away, loading his gun. It's sick, it's dope, it's my favorite part of the whole manga. And it's way different in the film. So in the film, much like in the manga, the whole thrust is that one of the characters, Iura, who is a fuck, and looks stupid in overalls. What are you doing, Iura? It's 2015. People don't wear fucking overalls. Not like that, at least, you fucking loser. They don't even look good on them. Fucking fuck. And they all, Iroh wants to get down to this car so he can escape because he fucking hates everyone on the roof. And he fucks them in the process by releasing the zombies, which leads to Sports Boy jumping up. And so Hideo has to kind of, this is where Hideo has to overcome all of his bullshit and save the day with his shotgun. Like I said, in the manga, he fights through a food court, but in the movie, it's like this stationary fight in a single hallway as zombies are coming from both sides. Luckily, Shinsuke Sato is a good enough director to make this stationary hallway fight like visually interesting and exciting. So I'm glad he's a good director, because anyone else, this could just be a boring pile of shit that just goes on too long. But in the movie, they kind of work around this by having the other characters that are with him join the fight. And we actually get a moment in the movie that's really good. It's as good as any moment in the manga where a character named Abe, who we see show up in the film, he gets bit by his wife, who was a zombie, and then he decides to kill himself. And it's like, when you watch it, because like he's a character that was established and has been around for a little bit in the film, like you actually do feel it. And it's like, yeah, it's actually pretty effective. But even though this seems like it's not unenjoyable, it is pretty exciting to watch, and there's a lot of really good gore effects in it. It just makes me think of what could have been, because I know that Shinsuke Sato could have made a really good version of the scene from the manga. I guess, I don't know, I guess they just kind of went the lazy route, and I don't want to think that Shinsuke Sato wanted to go the lazy route. Like, I feel like maybe this was already written when Shinsuke Sato had to come and direct it, And it's kind of a bummer that the movie ends this way. Don't get me wrong, though. The ending is still really exciting and cathartic and fun. And also has my favorite shot in the whole movie, where we see Hideo standing in the aftermath as the camera slowly pushes. It's my favorite shot in the whole movie. It's fucking cool. Love it. But at the end of the day, even with my issues with the way the ending is handled, I still really enjoyed I Am a Hero. It's exciting, well-directed, well-acted. That's something I forgot to mention. The casting in this film, for the most part, is really good. Like, Yo Izumi, who plays Hideo, looks fucking perfect for the part. The guy who plays Sango looks great. The guy who plays Yura looks great. The only issue with the casting, I feel, is that with all the women, they're just kind of pretty ladies, which, like, is fine. But in the manga, I like, they're not ugly, but they look a little more like a normal person, whereas in this one, all the female characters look like they are models. I guess it kind of bums me out because they paid so much attention to the male casting and, like, didn't cast people I thought looked the part for the women. But I would still really recommend going and checking out I Am a Hero. It's a fucking great, fun ride, and even though it's 2 hours long, it feels quite brisk. The only moment where it drags is when they're in the forest. And I would say maybe watch the film, and then if you like it, read the manga. Because I feel like if you read the manga, it just takes away slightly from the impact of the film. But either or, I highly recommend I Am a Hero, both the manga and the film. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of I Am a Hero. Still trying to get my footing with filming these on time and editing and releasing them, so expect more improvements as time goes on. I'm still kind of getting used to this. As well, please consider checking out my Patreon. There will be a link down in the description to that. If you want to donate $1, super cool at that. If you want to donate more, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's your choice. And anyone who chooses to support me, I would be obviously eternally grateful to, because I'm just some douche on the internet talking about movies from a country he's not from. Yeah. So tune in next week, where I'm going to be taking a look at something a little more dramatic than the last few films I've reviewed. I'll see you guys next week. Until then, try not to die.